Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 224 of The Ball is Round. My name is Andy Coronado, and tonight on the show, we discuss CF Montreal's loss to Philadelphia Union and Roses FC home opener win against Ottawa Rapid FC. As you guys can see today, I am joined by Elias whenever he decides to appear. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I gotta wait to be introduced. I'm a diva, you know. I have a certain je ne sais quoi. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's May the 4th, as you can tell.
First
I
things
have I have my
first. First
happy May
things
the 4th.
first,
May the 4th
man.
be with you.
Yes.
May the 4th be with CF Montreal because God help them. But we're gonna get into that a little bit later. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Honestly, super exciting day. Yeah, we see you guys. Honestly, those of you that listen to us every week, really sorry we couldn't make it last week, but we're back. We're back.
Absolutely.
We're back because we love doing this and we love having you, talking to you guys, discussing with you guys every day. But yeah, man, Elias, I grew up Star Wars, man. That was my life.
Yeah.
That's literally what I knew. I didn't know anything else. Like I was discussing it earlier with my wife, and Elias, I was saying like I really didn't understand necessarily the plot lines and everything. Like I didn't completely do one plus one because I just didn't. But what I really enjoyed about it was like the pew 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 aspect of it, and the
Yeah. Pew pew
swords and
pew
the
indeed.
noises. And I was like, that part I understood 100%. But the rest, I
That's the
was
cool
like,
part.
I
That's
was
the
like,
cool part. Hell yeah.
okay, cool. She's pretty. She kissed him, and I guess they're in love. But let's go to the battles and all that. But now today, as an adult, I'm watching it. I was like, holy shit, there was a whole story to this. Like
Yeah.
there was actually something to this, and that this is, anyways. This is like you. I think you said before the show, Elias. It's a national holiday, man. Like I don't know what you're doing. I honestly woke up this morning and I was like, I have nothing Star Wars to wear. Like I really need something. So but I am proud of my little coffee mug that I have here. You guys can see. Just keep sipping. It's what keeps me alive. And
Hell yeah.
also my little my little Darth Vader. Yep, broke that. Um, but Elias also has some Star Wars stuff to show us because what is like we can't be friends unless we're Star Wars. So, but I guess Elias has disappeared on us for a minute. But you there, Elias? If not, it's okay. Um, in any case, as you guys know, we're going to be discussing CF Montreal today. To start off, we're going to talk about the Canadian Championship victory over TFC. Not probably not the sexiest game if you want to talk about that, in my opinion, because I just when you think about it, a game goes two ways, right? I think Elias is having technical issues, but he'll be with us whenever he figures it out. But yeah, for me, the TFC game, TFC I think lined up a B team. They lined up a B team, and it was honestly going to go either way. It was going to be the only thing I can think of was we're either going if CF Montreal loses against a B team of Toronto FC, then it is bad news. Really colossal loss. But if we win, then there is still some hope for the 2025 season. But um, they came away with the win in penalties, which again is not the sexiest win that one wants. But at the end of the day, it's a win that this team needs. So, so it's very important. Elias, you good, man?
I'm back. Apologies to everyone. My laptop just died. So,
Fantastic. We're doing great.
love it.
So we're gonna need a little bit of the force
Yeah,
to the
bear with me for a second while my laptop reboots.
we got
But
it's all good, man. Guys, as you guys know, as you guys can see, we are professional podcasters.
exactly, there's so
Yeah,
much
so
go on.
we figured this out. Anyways, we were starting, Elias. I was giving my take
Yes,
on the Canadian Championship victory over TFC. Um,
absolutely.
and what I was saying is that it wasn't the sexiest of wins because I mean it is a win is a win. Some people have said it's not a win, Elias, and that's okay. Everybody has
I
their own
mean,
opinion on
technically
that.
they drew in regulation. Nah, bro, it's a win.
It's
Definitely
a
a win.
win to me. In my book, it counts because if it's a loss, Elias, it's a loss, right? So if we lose on
Yeah, if
penalties,
you lose on penalties, then it's the worst day ever because you're out of the Canadian Championship and you lost to your rivals. So
yeah, everything and again to me, it's one of the most important things is that is the adversity that they came the adversity that they came the going to Toronto facing
mhm.
you know a short week or whatnot. I think they came out competitive, and at the end of the day, Toronto FC did line up their B team. And as soon as Osorio was injured and left, I was like, this is a real B team because Osorio is the engine that keeps that
Yeah,
Toronto FC going. And so when they lost him, but it wasn't the sexiest of wins, like I said. I mean, CF Montreal continued to have its own struggles, but Toronto, ugh, and we don't like Toronto in this part of town, but they are terrible. I mean,
yeah,
I,
it's
I
not a
don't know
good
about
look.
you, Elias, but did you see Insigne play? Oh,
No, I honestly not since honestly Douglas Costa have I ever seen a designated player so disinterested with what's going on the field. With so just like completely checked out from reality. Um, like it was a huge swing they took when they brought him in. It worked for like a week, and then the cracks already started to show. But that's what happens when you put a DP on a massive contract with you know certain unknown variables. There's a risk, and I think that you know you they paid the price dearly, and that experiment is almost done. But I could also see them going into almost like this CF Montreal kind of PTSD where they maybe take it easy on designated players for a little bit, at least big name designated players, because
look what
look,
happened to
when
Toronto.
something fails as hard as that loudly, and with that much with that kind of cost, you're going to be a little bit more tentative, let's say. Kind of like what happened in Montreal after like, three designated players in a row after Nacho Piatti didn't work, and then Victor Wanyama finally worked, and then until it didn't, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Toronto after the whole Insigne ordeal become a bit more, careful.
And Patrick White says, not always, but most of the time, unknown DPs do better than big names.
It's because they have something to prove, right? They have something to prove, and again, someone like, for example, Dante Vanazier or Hugo Kuipers, right? They just fit right? Insigne was kind of just like almost like an impulse purchase, but someone like Federico Bernardeschi, who is still a big name, but nowhere near the name of Insigne, fit much better.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna talk a little bit later about the wins and the losses because as Kane Vitorovic, I hope I said that right. He says we're breaking the winless record next week. I mean, guys, let's try to stay positive on it.
Just
But
a little bit,
Roberto
please.
says LA Galaxy losing right now. They want to compete with us. I mean, sure. I mean, if there's one record we'll win, I guess this year will be that one. No, I honestly let's try to stay positive in this end. We're gonna finish the TFC topic. I just kind of want to understand because we are CF Montreal obviously moves on to the next round. What does this mean for this season, this victory to you, Elias?
It means a stay of execution, I think. Um, not in the literal sense where people's jobs are at risk, but it does prolong the quote unquote season, right? Their season is not completely done. They still have the Canadian Championship. They have either Forge or Wanderers. We'll find that out on the 7th, who their opponent will be. But, you know, we're going to get into it right after this. But the season, for all intents and purposes, from an MLS perspective, is pretty much done. I think, at least.
Yeah,
There's still Leagues Cup, which again you can oops your way into some kind of run here if you get the right group and you hit the right form at the right time. But Supporter Shield, MLS Cup is fairly dead in the water. So all you have left really is to put all your chips into the Canadian Championship, and beating Toronto on penalties, it's a win. Does kick that can down the road in terms of season's over.
Yeah. I think for the 2025 season, this win was exactly what the team needed because it is. I said it a little bit earlier. I mean, if CF Montreal would have lost this game,
Oh,
and
oh,
especially if they lose and then they lose like they did yesterday, the regular season game, I think the season is dead, and I think we start seeing the cracks that we've seen earlier this season get a little bit bigger. And but no, it definitely gives the CF Montreal a lifeline, and I think it's something that's going to be important to it's been teams have been very open in the past about it, Elias. When they said, "Oh, we've put all our focus on this championship, or we've put all
mhm.
our focus." Are you back, Elias?
Maybe keep talking.
so
There we go.
it's been one of those things where it's where if CF Montreal loses that championship, it's dead. But I think teams have been open in the past in the MLS or in other leagues where they've said um, that they essentially need they've been focused on one competition and forgot about the rest, which is fine. It's obviously the priorities. Elias, are we back, man? It's so nice to see you. In any case, Elias is facing all kind of technical issues today, but he's
Oh
here.
my God, that's what
He's
I get for
here.
changing my background.
He's here.
Jesus Christ.
You know, I'm like sweating, and I'm like,
You joined the club, man.
did
All
these
right, we're
did
good,
these
bro.
people did these people really want to hear Andy just go on rants? I don't think I even want to hear myself go on rants. But anyways, so
Yeah.
I think we both agree. We're both on the same page that this win against TFC gives them a lifeline, gives them a purpose. And if that's what CF Montreal wants to, realistically focus on for the rest of the season, I'm okay with that. But I think, guys, for your mental health, I thought about this a lot. For your mental health, don't look for a win. In my opinion, don't look for a win. Look for progress in this team. Look for progress between individual players if they're progressing. Like we talked a lot in the show about George Campbell and his progress that he's done since the beginning of the season. Individual players, and we'll break down into it a little bit what we saw yesterday, how players are progressing in their positions, Luca Petras and all that, and how this team can maybe sell them eventually, or whatever it is, because that's what the goal of this club is, right? So just for your mental health. That's the way I'm seeing it. The glass half full, where it's like, okay, we might not get the CF Montreal might not get the MLS Cup or Supporter Shield, but there is still a good product on the field. As opposed to when you watch a TFC that they lose in the Canadian Championship, but their product is terrible.
Mhm.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
the only trash talk I'm going to be doing on Toronto today.
We're done trash talking Toronto for now.
Yeah, because
For
they're
tonight.
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So and Patrick, sorry, just to add on, Patrick White said there was progress in the style of play yesterday. We'll get into a game. If we had a couple better players, especially in midfield, we could really have something. We'll get into that. Thank you, Patrick. A little bit more. Okay, so let's move on. Did you want to add anything by any chance about the Canadian Championship, Elias?
no, I think that's it.
Okay.
That's done. We'll wait. Again, they got it. The next game will be in mid-May, but until we know who Montreal is going to be facing, um, all you really can do is wait. I'm expecting a good game on Wednesday for who we'll meet. But yeah, Forge and Wanderers are two very different teams, but they're both doing really well. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And then one last question, David Wise asked, then what's the point of following them if the goal isn't to win games? Look, guys, at the end of the day, like I said, for your mental health, I wouldn't aim over it. Obviously, at the end of the day, you want to win games. You want them to win games. And as a fan, you should want them to win games. But if you understand the concept and the
Yeah.
psychology of the philosophy of this team, it's mostly to sell players and try to get any trophy. They said one, right? That's what Gabriel Jaffe said. He wants to get at least one
And
trophy.
playoffs. So
Yeah. So I mean,
sure.
again, for your mental health, so that you don't get completely depressed and by this team, just try to see the positive sides of it. Cool. So speaking of positive, let's talk about yesterday's loss to Philadelphia Union. We'll start with the lineup, Elias.
Speaking of positives,
Yes. So we'll start with the goalie. We had there was Jonathan Sirois. Um, as the goalkeeper, we had Joel. It's so weird to see this lineup. I didn't understand it when I first saw it, but Joel Waterman as a right back, George Campbell as a center back, Fernando Alvarez as a center back, Tom Pierce as a left back, Dante Seeley as a right winger, Nathan Saliba as a midfielder, Samuel Piet as a midfielder, Fabian Herbers as a left winger. I want to say it's kind of weird, but and on top we had Giacomo Vrioni and Prince Owosu. So that was the lineup for last night. When you see this lineup pop up on your X account or whatever it is that you see it, Elias, what's going through your mind?
My first thought was, "Oh my God, is the five back?" Um, and then I remembered that Joel Waterman is probably going to play right back, and they're going to invert. So for about 3 seconds, my heart was in my throat, and I was like, "Please, God, no." Um, but no, I besides that, then you kind of start trying to put the pieces together because I'm like, are they going to play a 4-4-2? Where's Fabian Herber's going to fit in? Because you got Dante Sealy, who's a natural winger. Then you got two strikers. There's no way they'll play Dante Sealy in the midfield. So there's just a million questions that cascade. And once you saw them line up on the field and in a flat 4-4-2, it started to make a little bit more sense. But for a good bit there, I was like, what the hell's going on? And when you have Caden Clark, who's not 100% because he took a knock, when you have someone like Hennady Sinchuk, who's not only not fit, he's in a boot with crutches. He's going to be missing some serious time. You start to understand a bit why there's no other proper winger. You take a look at the form of Mahala Poku again, right? Then you start to understand why there's Fabian Herbers there, who's like a proxy, a pseudo winger, if you will. Um, but yeah, after I saw them line up on the pitch, it all made a little bit more sense. But yeah, those first 3 to 5 seconds after I saw the lineup definitely had my brow furrowed.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make sense of it. I was on my
Yeah.
way to the stadium, and I was late, so I was looking at it, and I was like trying to make sense of it. I was
Mhm.
questioning like, what are we going back three? Are we going to? Funny story, Elias. I just said I was late to the stadium, so I get there and had no idea that no sign that there had been a score in the second minute. So I spent the whole first half thinking that that last minute goal before the halftime, CF Montreal was winning 1-0 because I completely missed that there was that one goal in the second minute. And then as I'm going to downstairs to the bathroom, I look at my app and I see, wait, we're tied 1-1. I was like, what the hell did I miss? I was like, and then yeah, so that was that lesson learned. Don't be late or check your app while you're on your way there. But yeah, so yeah, I was late. You were late, so that was the team for the first cut. Yeah, yeah, no, we'll talk about the defenders in a little bit, but let's go ahead and start with the attack, including the subs where we talked about Prince Owosu, Giacomo Vrioni. We had wingers Efebie Herbers, and Dante Sealy, and then we also had a subs, Mahalo Poku and Caden Clark. So
And Sunusi, technically at the end,
and
Sunusi,
yes,
last like 5 minutes, right?
Zebra, that yeah, he made a little cameo. Um, Yeah, I don't know where to start, man. Prince Owosu, man, he's been the topic of the night. I mean, I almost want to say I feel bad for Prince Owosu because of how poor it's going for him, but it's hard to see. It's hard to see because honestly, game by game, it just feels like he's losing trust in himself. He's losing confidence. I had one of my followers ask me last night, she's saying, Andy, if you were to bench Prince Owosu, honestly, who would you put there? And I couldn't answer. All I said was like, honestly, put anybody, put anyone. It's not because there's somebody more talented in him in the line, in the bench or anything. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that Prince Owosu needs a break. Personally, I think he needs to take some distance from the field. Kind of maybe look at himself in the mirror, take some time to take that pressure off of him, and maybe come kind of slowly come back and try to kind of because the simple things that in last night that I saw, receiving the ball in the box, things that he used to do at the beginning of the season that I praised him here for,
Yeah.
setting up the play and using his body. It just, and yesterday the play that everybody booed him at the end of the game,
Mhm.
it's just him overthinking, like, and we saw this the past two weeks. It's just a lot of overthinking, a lot of lack of confidence in himself. I don't think he's not skilled. I think he's very skilled, but he's just it's that's what makes Giacomo Vrioni kind of seem special now because he's coming in with that like, well, I haven't messed up in anything, so I'm not losing my confidence. But let's talk a little bit about Prince. What would you think, Elias?
I kind of share that sentiment where I do feel a little bit bad for him because again, he's the player now that Luca Petrasso wasn't a starter on Saturday. He is the player with the most minutes this season. And that's due in large part to three things, right? One, Giacomo Vrioni was injured and unavailable. Two, Sunusi Ibrahim is massively out of shape and is not reliable to be a starter. We expect him to play at least 60 minutes. And three, Jean-Anthony Vincent, who is the fourth or fifth striker on this team, cannot be relied on to stay fit in any amount of consistency that you can start planning around him.
That's true.
Right? You can have him for a game, but if I'm tactically working with, an attacking core, I can be like, I know for a fact that I can get like 3 consecutive games out of Jonathan Vincent. Because
Yeah.
I don't think it's happened yet. Right? So I think when you look at all those things, Prince Owusu has been the de facto striker because there's just nobody else. So now that Giacomo Vrioni is back, now that he's done 20 minutes, he's done 30 minutes, he's done 60 minutes, give him the start. Let Prince Owusu, first of all, rest and just clear his head. Because, again, Patrick said, I'm done with Owusu. And I think a lot of people are done with Owusu.
Yeah.
And
Understandably so.
I can't blame them.
Yeah.
I cannot blame them. Right? He links up very well. But when you are the lone striker, we've said this a million times. I feel like a broken record, but it has to be said again. When you're the lone striker, your link up play is only a fraction of your job. You have to be decisive. In that play where he got booed, I can't think, for a left-footed striker, I cannot think of a single better position to be in besides right in front of the net, where Vrioni scored his goal actually, than where Wusu was. Because you have the near post wide open to you, you have the far, you have every single conceivable shooting option available to you. You're on your strong foot, the defender is chasing you. It's not like you have to shoot past anybody. Every single thing you could ask for as a striker is laid bare, and he just freezes. And that right there, I don't want to see him start next game.
No.
Right? Let Vrioni play. Let anybody else play. Just not. I don't want him to be benched and iced out at a doghouse or whatever like this.
Yeah.
That's a term that's commonly used in Montreal.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a punishment to bench him.
No. I just need him to recalibrate and mentally just take time away from being the guy that's relied on for everything, because very clearly he's not made for that.
Yeah.
He played much better in the first half when he had someone to play off of, but the second Vrioni came off and it became a 10 and a striker with Clark, it was a disaster. And now Patrick made up a good point about Clark, because he's excited to see Clark play with a real striker again. I am too, because someone like Vrioni knows what he wants and he knows where he wants the ball. And he's going to attract a lot of attention. Not in the same way Prince does, where he makes the runs and he's strong and he draws attention, but it's a different kind, and that's more in a low block. When Montreal actually get the ball forward, Vrioni is going to have somebody man marking him the entire time. Kane Clark's going to have more space.
Yeah,
we have to talk about Kane Clark.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll get to. I really want to talk about Prince Owusu. I also observed Giacomo Vrioni last night, and he scored a goal. He did great, but then I tried to watch the whole game. Besides that, and I still.
He did not have a good game. He
had a terrible game.
Terrible.
But again, at the end of the day, what goes in the stat sheet and what matters the most at the end of the day for anyone, and it should be that way, is that you score goals.
Yeah.
It makes you forget everything else. But if you see everything else he did, it wasn't that great of a game.
Oh no,
he looked very rusty. He looked like he did not understand what, he didn't have that chemistry with other players. So it was very, very interesting. So you definitely want to see that progress. Beyond him staying fit is just kind of that chemistry to find it with I don't know if it's going to be Herbers, because honestly I didn't like the Herbers game either. I wasn't a fan of it. Don't know what your take on that, but I didn't really like Herbers as a left winger. I don't know why unless again it's heavy rotational based on the Wednesday game. I didn't really like his game. Sealy, I think he's taking steps in the right direction. I like where I thought he did good work on the right side, going one-on-one and constantly challenging the right side of the left side of Philly. Obviously very young and still has to develop his game in many ways. But besides that, Clark as a sub, did he change the game? Did he impact it in any way? Not to me. I think I said it during the Toronto game, because Honestly, Elias, I think we're seeing a shell of himself, man. Like a shell of his former self. He just doesn't seem like himself right now. He seems very kind of floating around and not really playing kind of his own game. And I don't know how do you see his game right now, Elias for Clark? Because I know you guys mentioned that you guys would maybe like to see him as a false 9 or 10 again. But how did you find his game the past few weeks?
Yeah, Clark is a false nine. Is kind of interesting because again, while they're currently in a really bad in a really bad lack of wingers at the club, I don't think that's the right idea. But when you have Sinchuk back, when you have Clark fully healthy, that is something that I think you could actively consider. The only thing is, again, Caden Clark last year would be a very interesting false nine. But Caden Clark this year still needs to show that he's got that eye for goal because it shows up in moments. It shows up in moments and it's there, and then it's gone for the next 20 minutes. So I think it just needs a more consistent version of Caden Clark because, again, it's not like he's not a wash. He's not a bust. He's not some kind of player that just like had 5 good minutes and then is crap, right? He has good moments this year as well. The thing is, I just don't think he's in the environment right now where he can thrive, where he has people he can play off of, where he has people that not just from a physical perspective, but from an attacking quality perspective are making space for him. When
Yeah,
you're on the field with Joseph Martinez, A, he makes everybody around him better, but B, he attracts so much attention in the final third that someone like Prince Owusu simply does not. Someone like Giacomo Vrioni, given the fact that he scored 2 goals in like 100 minutes of playtime, will demand more attention. So I think that they could be a more successful partnership. But again, this is all entirely hypothetical, and this is based off of like a wing and a prayer. You
yeah,
know, until we see it on the field in an actual reality, you're kind of you're kind of grasping at straws here. One thing I want to say, I didn't just like Dante Seeley's game. I loved Dante Seeley's game. He was the man of the match to me by a mile. He
Mhm.
was an absolute nightmare on the right hand side. He every single touch was either forced drawing a foul or getting by his defender. I think he was this was hands down the best Dante Seeley game of the season. And this was hands down, arguably one of the best individual performances from an attacker this year. Again, with the state of this team, the bar is quite low,
Very low.
but
Yeah,
he was phenomenal. Right, he
yeah,
was untouchable on that right side, especially in one-on-one situations. So this was the kind of Dante Seeley that Marco Dondel's been trying to get on. And again, we've seen it for 10, 15-minute bursts, but I don't think we've seen it this consistently over the course of an entire game at all this year. We've seen it in training. He does have these moments in training where he's just when he's on, he's unstoppable. But in a game, this is the first time. And I think Fabian Herber's had a very interesting game because Robbie's saying the bar is on the ground. The bar is way below the ground. Let's
for
be
your
honest.
mental health, guys. Lower the bar for your mental health.
But
Whatever the
from
bar is to
from
you.
Fabian Herber's perspective, I think that he had a good game. Right, these were his first minutes under Marco Donadel. He hadn't had a start yet under a new manager. He just played somewhat out of position, but I think that if you're going to play with a midfield three, I would much rather have him in there than have Saliba Laturi and Piet. Because at some point, one of those three become redundant and you don't get anything done. I would love to have someone like him who has the quality, but also the physical attributes to actually do the work, but has the technical quality to bring the ball forward. Because when he got into space, he was looking good. So I think that having someone like him in your midfield, I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like to me, maybe again coming back from injury, it just kind of the game was at a different speed than he's used to, and that's what made him, to me, in my opinion, have not such a good game. But I mean, maybe given a few runs of games, we'll start seeing the
I
best
think
his
so.
best version. So let's move on to midfield,
Mm.
where there was Nathan Saliba and Samuel Piet, and then we had Victor Lotori that came a little bit later. Um, I saw a Samuel Piet. I loved Samuel Piet's game. I've been very critical of him this season. I've said he lost a step. I've questioned a lot of things. Um, but I liked his game yesterday. I thought he was very solid. He was very on the task. Um, and yeah, and I also really liked Nathan Saliba's game as well, where I saw that he completed the passes. He completed some passes and all that. Wasn't perfect. There were definitely some that he could have done better, but I liked how he opened up the field. Now, when Samuel Piet was subbed off, was it maybe then I forgot what time, the 95th minute, I think you said 90th minute, I think, I believe, close to the end.
Something like that.
He was clearly furious, mad at it, he was tucking off his shirt, which is weird to see because Samuel Piet is a very tucking your shirt guy kind of guy. And yeah, he was definitely not happy, but I thought he played a very good game, very competitive game. And he set up a lot of the plays. Now, Nathan Saliba, there's been a lot of I've read a lot of people that kind of didn't like his game, or is he plateauing, Elias? Like I don't know. Like I feel like we spoke about this at the beginning of the season, preseason last year. We were saying this 2025 has to be his season. There's no ifs and buts about it. If he is to take that next step to Europe, this is his season. What did you think of that? Do you think he's plateauing? What do you think?
I don't think he's plateauing because he's significantly worse than he was playing last year. Significant, right? Nathan Saliba was a force to be reckoned with in the midfield. He was in pole position to be, a perennial national team call-up and a future starter after the World Cup. And this year, he is none of the above.
Yeah.
Right? He does not exert any kind of control over the midfield. He does not carry the ball the way he does anymore. He doesn't run the way he does anymore. He doesn't win 50-50. He doesn't do any single part of it. And this is the biggest concern. And LP has fan, saying, how can anyone succeed and progress in this type of environment and team? That doesn't speak to individual moments, right? You look under Hernan Losada, and people took really good steps forward, including Nathan Saliba, right? That was arguably his biggest steps were taken under Hernan Losada. And that was one of the worst, CF Montreal years since like 2014, right? So, again, this year's probably going to be worse the way it's going, but there's room for individuals to progress, especially when a team is not winning, because that's when the individual performances of people that are hungry, people that are developing, shine even more. When you take a look at the way this team is playing, and again, right, we're positive mindset. This team is not getting played off the pitch. So my question now is, how is a worse Nathan Saliba contributing to a better overall team performance? Because that makes no sense. And I honestly can't pin it down. We had a better record than Losada. Yes, I know. I'm saying that team was the worst since 2014, and this team is probably going to beat it. But let's not say anything crazy and say that the Losada team was a good team. That was a terrible year.
It was
right?
a terrible year.
I think that everyone's expectations were buoyed by a record-breaking unbeaten run, which is kind of crazy. But that season as a whole was not a good year. It was a mess. And in that mess, Nathan Saliba was excellent. So I don't think that the hunger is there right now, and I don't think that the work ethic is there right now. And he kind of said it in the press conference at the end of the game. There's competition everywhere. So honestly, with the way Victor Latour is playing, and how highly Marco Donadel clearly rates him, I would not be surprised if his position is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Because Nathan Saliba has been subbed off now for Victor Latour in back-to-back games. Victor Latour was the lone midfielder out there to close the game out. He closed the game out against Toronto as well. He's got 3 lungs at this point with the amount of work he does on the field. He's everywhere. And again, he does lack a certain technical quality, but his effort out there more than makes up for it, especially when he's doing the work that you would expect of someone like Samuel Piet. Or when he does the grunt work, that is exactly what they brought him in for. Nathan Saliba does not do that work anymore, right? He's not Ricky Puig or even, Bryce Duke in terms of technical quality, where he can pick out a pass and he can dribble. And he is a workhorse. He's an engine, and he's not being the engine.
Yeah, and
Simply present, and that's not enough for him.
and that's something that's also like that you've noticed is that he's taking a lot more shots on goal now as well. He's trying to score, so he's trying to find a way to get in the stat sheets. But it's the details with him that it's kind of questionable. Where Elias, I thought we were past this part of his career, but now we're kind of going back. So questionable. I don't know if he kind of has to come back to her, because I know last year he had a tremendous year going to the national team and all that. Things seem to be developing well, but at the end of the day, it just didn't. So a lot of questions to be asked there. So Victor Latour also did a little cameo at the end, and again, very very short, but he also played against TFC. Yeah, I really like where Victor Latour is going, the direction in which he's going.
He's converting me. I swear to God, he's converting
Yeah,
me.
he had a very sloppy start to a season. Sloppy is an understatement. It was a very very bad start to a season, but he seems to be catching on to the league, to the system, to the way of play, and really seems to be exactly like you said, a kind of Marco Donadel player, right? He's very he plays very positive and all that, so it's very very interesting. And then we're going to talk about the fun part, the defense. Let's talk about the defense. So left back, we had I think we're gonna call him a left back at Tom Pierce. We had center back, we had Joel Waterman, Fernando Alvarez, George Campbell, and at right back we had Joel Waterman. Just gonna say it like it is. I don't like Joel Waterman as a right back. I just don't. I saw it yesterday. I not a fan of it. I think he's very. I like the fact that he's a very flexible player and he can play defensive midfield when called upon. But I don't like him as a right back. But I'm not gonna focus so much on that. I'm gonna focus mostly on Fernando Alvarez. Fernando Alvarez hasn't taken one step back. He hasn't taken two steps back. He's taken massive steps back, 5 steps back, because since the change of coach and formation, Elias, I believe that Fernando Alvarez has been a lot more vulnerable and insecure with the ball. We almost saw, I think, twice yesterday that he again had one of those highlight reels that you don't want to be part of, the bloopers that you don't want to be a part of. We almost saw it, but luckily he had some of his colleagues to help him out. But that last goal, it wasn't completely his fault, because I do think that George Campbell was out of place. But Fernando Alvarez let Ure, I don't want to say his name wrong,
Ura.
the Philly Ura, the Philly player, go right through him. And I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with the whole Jalen Neal situation and his injury, coming back from injury, or how far away he is. But there is no reason to continue starting Fernando Alvarez, in my opinion, because he is not performing up to standard. Not since it's changed the formation, the coach.
Yeah, I agree with you in that. I think that, well, first I want to talk about Joe Waterman, because I actually do think he played a much better game as a right back slash inverted midfielder or in possession. Second time
Which
around.
part? Which part of the game?
Well, first of all, in possession, he was a lot more effective, and he was also caught up. Again, I think that Vasiliev was his assignment, and he was too tucked in and kind of let that shot. But I'm not going to blame him for the goal, because 7 people in that play looked stupid. Let's be honest here, right? Philly made the entire team look like amateurs there. That was, first of all, chapeau. That was a phenomenal team goal from Philadelphia. That was excellent, and you deserve to hype that up as a great goal. But 7 different players, including the entire back line, and arguably both midfielders, and even Jean Sirois, if you will, to a certain extent, were made to look simply pedestrian. That was just a higher caliber of team and of execution. Besides that, I think Joel Waterman had his entire side locked down completely. He talked about last time when he played right back, where he was almost overexcited and over exuberant, and he put himself in difficult positions defensively because he was so excited to be playing in the midfield when they had the ball. And I think that this performance last night was much more composed and was much more what's the right word here? He was a lot more self-aware of what was required of him defensively, and he did not compromise it again after the first goal, right? For the 89 minutes, he was on top of his shit. So for that, I was very happy to see. I still think David Bugai is a better option because he's an actual right back. But when you're rotating the squad, you're rotating the squad.
But
You don't have
that's
you don't have another right back on the team. So
yeah,
I
that's
think as a
probably
rotational piece, that's fine.
yeah.
But Fernando Alvarez, which is the crux of the story, I don't understand. Like, if he plays again, if he starts again over Jalen Neal when nobody's injured, I need to understand what Jalen Neal is doing wrong in training. In training, he's not playing poorly. He's, he had one. He's had cameos, right? He hasn't had the actual chance to show what he can do. And I'll be happy, right? He has 320 minutes of possible 900 as a 21-year-old kid. You'll need minutes and will be prone to mistakes with spot starts and minutes. It's not that complicated, but it is when you see how good he was in a 5-back, right? And
Yeah.
that's the thing.
It's the steps
These two
back.
performances in the back four feel very much like Kamal Miller with the national team, where in the back three he was the first starter. He was the first name on the team sheet defensively, along with Alistair Johnston, when they were a back five, and when they went to a back four, he's nowhere to be seen. He got passed by Joe Waterman. He got passed by everybody, and he's now an afterthought in the national team picture. Fernando Alvarez might just be one of those players that operates better in a back five. Because again, this is not saying that he's bad. We saw him in a back five. We saw him in with three center backs, and he was excellent. He wasn't just good. He was arguably at some points the best of the three. So there's no way you can argue that he's a bad player. But in this current system right now, he has done nothing to say that he should start over at least giving Jalen Neal a shot. And again, he didn't have a bad game, right? He didn't play poorly. He just was not nearly as effective and confident and authoritative as what we've seen from Joel Waterman and as what is needed from that spot next to George Campbell. So I think that from that perspective, Jalen Neal absolutely deserves a shot and deserves a chance to prove himself. And Fernando Alvarez should be the one coming off the bench.
Yeah, and exactly. So it's one of those things that's very questionable because he was this close to life. I know you're saying didn't have a bad game. He didn't do anything. You're right, but he was this close, this close to almost becoming a blooper reel yesterday. There were many moments, but luckily, like I said, he had a lot of colleagues that were around him to help him out.
Yeah.
But let's finish up here with goalkeeping, where we had Jonathan Sirois.
Yes.
Obviously, no sub, thank God, because honestly, that would suck. But yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, Jonathan Sirois didn't. I've said it in this pod before. To me, it's very simple when it comes to goalkeepers. You're not the news, then you're okay, right? Like, I mean, I've been very critical of his distribution, but I think if we want to see improvement, I think I think the team has kind of adapted to that in the sense that they're building off the back a lot better, and they're allowing him to be placed in less positions to have to launch it and have to give up those possessions. I think that they're very much organized, and I think that's come since Donadell's taken over, where the team is a lot more solid defensively, and they're building up the back and not exposing Jonathan Sirois' weaknesses as much. Not gonna blame the goals on him. I don't think he did anything bad. I think they were just, like you said, excellent plays by Philadelphia Union. I mean, you got to give it to them when they deserve it, and in this case, I do believe they deserve that. So, what did you think of Jonathan Sirois?
Can I say something without sounding like too much of a downer? I agree with LP Habs fan. I kind of
I
felt like
wasn't
he should
there.
have
I
handled
can't
that
tell.
first goal better. I kind of agree. Like it was a very good shot. I don't want to take away from the shot. I don't want to take from the quality, but I do feel like he was caught flat-footed. I do feel like he did not handle that shot as well as he could have, as well as we've seen him handle shots like that. And that's the thing, right? This is not me saying, oh, he sucks, right? We've seen his catalog of saves. We've seen his ability. We know what he can do. And we know some of the frankly ridiculous saves he's pulled out of a hat that he had no business making. This felt stoppable, right? I'm not saying he's supposed to catch it and look great and all that, but at least get more than just a fingertip on it. Because again, it felt like he was A, caught out, and B, overpowered by that shot. So I do think he could have done better. The second one, it's a 1v1. You make yourself big and you pray. And he got, and credit to him, he got his body on it and it rolled in. It rolls on the other side of the post and he saves a point and people are bowing at his feet.
Yeah.
But that's just bad luck. I'm not going to blame him for the second goal. That's just, shit happens for him. But the first one, maybe he was also caught up by how early it was. I don't think any goalie is mentally like, I'm going to start and in 70
Locked
seconds,
in.
I'm going to get a shot going to the top corner, right? Like, I don't think that's mentally, but I do feel like he could have handled the first one better. But again, that's nitpicking. At the same time, they shouldn't have been able to just walk past 7 players or 6 players or whatever. So, again, that first goal really was a team effort in terms of everyone looking kind of average. But yeah, second one, I don't have anything to blame. But I agree with you. I think since Donadell, he's gotten more confident with the ball.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's because Laurent Courtois asked way too much of him.
He did.
I want you to break lines. I want you to do this. I want you to find 43 different passing angles. Donadell's like, look, you have your long option. You have someone that can hold up play, but also you have 2 wide players now. You have a fullback and a winger. That reduces reduces the margin for error, that increases the margin for error in that, you have 2 different options now. And it's not just a fullback and a winger marking a wingback now. So I think that has allowed him to be a bit more selective, and he can also kind of hedge his bets. And I think that's resulted in a pretty impressive improvement with his distribution.
Absolutely. So just to finish up the topic, let's talk about just if because we're gonna move on to Roses FC after this. So, what's next for CF Montreal after this? Honestly, like I think we discussed it, right? Like season feels kind of over this early. I know the players are saying in the press conferences, like, guys, come on, like the lot can change, and they're right. A lot of things can change, but today, Sunday night, May 4th, it is feeling like shit. Like that's just. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, Emil gave
It's
us a good question about that, right? I might be the only one to be rather encouraged by the last 2 games. They're clearly taking more defensive risks to push for more attacks, which leads to counterattacks. Is it too much? Do they need to balance back towards defense or keep pushing to generate attack? I get it. There is reasons to be optimistic, right?
yeah,
Hell, between you and me, right? There's just heaps of optimism. I get it, but what's the point of soccer? What's the objective in soccer, Andy?
win.
How do you win in soccer?
Scoring
How is it
goals.
determined who wins a soccer game?
He scored goals, more
You
goals
score
than the
more
other
goals than
team.
the other team.
Yeah,
I don't look, and again, I really want to ask Samuel Piet this question now that it's been like 4 weeks, because he said I'd rather play beautiful soccer and lose than play like what Charlotte did and win. Because in the long run, if you play the right way and you play good soccer, what CF Montreal have done, we have to give them credit for that, you will be more successful. Sam, you're about to break the record for the longest winless streak to start a season in MLS history. There's no way you still believe that. So,
yeah. I mean, look, he answered your question that you just asked right now, Elias. I feel like he answered it pretty clearly yesterday when CF Montreal was playing nicely, but they were. But then when he got subbed out, he was furious, man. Nobody was clapping it up for
but
him.
that's the thing, right? He's a
I mean,
competitive player. I can't blame him for being
yeah,
frustrated. Look at the situation they're in, right? He did everything right, almost everything right last night, and they still
yeah,
lost. Right?
exactly.
Marco Dondell was the same way. Like, what am I supposed to do different? I set up this team to do everything to create every single chance possible, and all you have to do is put the damn ball in the net. I cannot go out there onto the field and kick the ball myself. What else am I going to do? And Donadell kind of looked like,
Yeah,
what more do you want from me?
yeah,
And I feel bad for him because, and again, as a coach, I'd like to see him come up with different ideas, but the ideas is not the problem.
Hey man, then Adele said it. He's like, I have a lot of diversity in my squad. He said, I have a lot of diversity in my squad. I'm not saying I like the diversity. I just have a lot, and I have to find a way to make it work. That's literally what he said. I was like, interesting. So yeah, he said I like the diverse. So I little things that the Nadal's very transparent with, that kind of gives you an insight as to what he's thinking and what he's starting to discover as the weeks pass by. Um, but yeah, going back, we're gonna turn it around. We're gonna say, for our mental health guys, what's next for CF Montreal? Look at the details. Look at the development. Look at how the
Yes,
team grows week over week.
absolutely.
Don't look for the win, please. Okay, if it happens, yay. If it happens, awesome. Similar to a Toronto game, right?
Yeah,
Awesome. We won. Great. All right. Enjoy it. So, are we good to move on to Roses FC?
let's do it.
The fun
So some
stuff.
good news. Some
The
good
fun
news for
stuff.
God's sakes.
Yes. Let's go. So, I'll actually let Elias take over this one because he was able to go to the game yesterday at Stade Boreal
So
for
nice.
Roses FC first home game against Ottawa. I had a hard time saying their name because I'm not used to it. Right, the
Ottawa
Ottawa
Rapid.
Rapid FC. Right, so Lies, take us how the day went, how your trip over there went. Let the people know how the first game was. You were part of history, Elias.
I know it was awesome. The stadium looks great. It what they've managed to do, which is what I was the best I could have hoped with in terms of when I found out that it was Bois Boulogne where they were going to be playing.
You didn't
The
complain.
best, no, me never, no. But what I hoped optimally was they were going to make it feel at the same time as a professional club, but also a community club, and they nailed that because it felt in terms of everyone being the proximity to the field, the small um but the intimate atmosphere felt like a community club. It felt like, our Club du Coin, where you go and you can hang out and watch soccer. But the energy, the atmosphere, and the way everything was gone about it was very professional. So they married both ideally, and they married it both in such a good way. And that's really what I wanted when I found out Bud Boulogne. Like, yes, that's not your first choice. Claude Robillard was under renovations. You still have to make lemonade, and they did. It was great. The atmosphere was awesome. They had a little drum section, super fun. Shout out to Ottawa Rapids, by the way, who had a fairly respectable away section that was actually right behind me. Funny enough, but there was about 20 or 30 Rapids fans just tucked in the corner, and they were cheering their hearts out. They cheered the opening goal. So yeah, that was really good. But that also kind of woke up the fans there because there's no supporter section. So I hope 1642 or the Ultras or some kind of supporters organization does have a more significant presence at Stade Boreal for the future games because that's probably the one thing that I could say in terms of atmosphere was significantly lacking. Yes, the drums were there, but drums aren't the only thing, right? You want chants, you want crowd interaction, you want, there's some people that tried to get some Let's Go Roses, some Allez Montréal, some Tout le Stade chants, right? And it worked to a certain extent, but you could tell that these are fans and not like a designated supporter section. So I'd say if there's something on the checklist that I'd love to see happen next, or at least work towards that supporter section, or at least a significant um, organized supporters presence. That would be awesome because I think that would take the atmosphere to an even higher level. Um, the pitch looked great. We're gonna get to the on-field product in a second, but everything about the match day experience, they nailed it. And I'm super happy that they got it right. Um, Getting there was not nearly as annoying as I thought it'd be. The walk, I parked at the I parked at the Casa Grec on Laval Boulevard, and I just walked.
You
It was like
just
a
wanted to
seven-minute
get
walk.
something to eat. Stop lying,
It-
Elias. You just wanted to get some, you know.
no, they had a bunch of food options there too. Actually, good segue.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of food
Right.
options. Like the whole match day experience was a really good one. So I think that they nailed, especially for the first match. They had a beautiful pregame ceremony. They had 22 um, iconic women's football players. They had a really nice ceremony. They gave all the starting 22 players a rose. It was very cute. Um, I saw a lot of young girls there. I saw a lot.
Good.
But I saw a lot of young girls there engaged with soccer, engaged with the game, and it's not just like parents dragging their daughter along. No, it's like the girls that are soccer fans. They're there. They're cheering. They're loud. They've got players that they're actually cheering for, and that's the whole point of it, right? If you want to grow soccer in this country, the national team can't be the only thing. You have to have local clubs that girls go to see and go like, I want to be like any of these players. I want to be like Charlotte Bebo. I want to be like um any of these
Boychuk.
players, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Boychuk.
Haley
Yeah,
Whitaker, right?
yeah, yeah.
Tanya Boychuk. I kept I forgot Tanya Boychuk's first name. I'm sorry, Tanya.
Tanya
But
Boychuk. Come on.
but all these players, right? They're actually cheering for these players, and that's what's so. It's not just let's go Roses. It's go Charlotte, go Tanya, go Haley, right? These are all. This is how you grow the game. So that was super fun. It was such a fun time. So chapeau to Roses, you guys nailed it.
That's awesome. And you know what? Actually, for the first time yesterday, I know I'm kind of going back to CF Montreal, but yesterday when I was at the game, I was actually on the supporters' side.
Mhm.
And what a difference! Oh my God, being on that, hearing that drum, hearing everything, hearing the music, and actually on the supporters' side, there were a few kids with Roses FC sweaters,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was like, "God, dude, that's bring that support to the game. What a fantastic environment!" And
Hopefully there's more double headers because
yeah,
Roses have next week I believe. Yeah,
yeah,
next Saturday there's a game. Again, they're playing Calgary if I'm not mistaken, and it's at 3 o'clock at Stade Boreal. You go there, you go see Montreal, make it a double header. It's a great evening of soccer.
I'll be there, man. Honestly, I can't believe I missed last night,
Unbelievable.
yesterday. But an incredible victory.
Yes.
Roses FC beat Ottawa Rapid FC 2-1. Came from behind, being 1-0.
Hmm.
And yeah, let's talk about the game. I know, guys, this is a kind of a long pod, but you know what? We like to talk Roses FC, and we've been out for 2 weeks too, so you might as
We're
well get a little
making
bit
up
of
for lost
a
time.
little bit more from us, and definitely our loved ones are going to kill us for staying on this long, but who cares, right? So let's start with the lineup of Roses FC. So we had at goalie we had Karpenko, we had Whitaker as a right back, Leas, and Capadonna as center back, Leas and Capadonna as center back, and Smith, who I loved her game by the way, Abdu, fantastic goal banger, and Bibo, Hess as midfielder, and Megan Sauvé as captain on the left side, and Paquin and Boychuk, Tanya Boychuk as your strikers. So let's start with the attack. What did we think? Elias, of their attack with Tanya Boychuk and
This team is so fun to watch and they love getting forward. The only thing that they really need is a creative presence in the middle of the pitch, right? Because they've got the work rate, they've got the finishing down, they've got runners, and they have willing runners. The only thing is they don't have someone that the second they get on the ball, regardless of where they are on the field, they're immediately a threat, not to score, but to create something. And I think that they've been attacking by committee, which is very important, and it's very good to break down, especially resolute defenses. Ottawa showed up ready to defend, and they did, and they defended phenomenally. But if you're going to break down teams that are going to defend like this, you have to have creative forces. You can't just will your way past defenses like this. And it worked. It worked yesterday because of two, frankly, excellent goals. But the way Ottawa defended and the way a lot of teams are going to be defending against this team now, right? You've got your 3-0, you scored 6 goals in 3 games. Teams are going to be, if not parking the bus, are going to be much more organized. And as these teams get more comfortable with one another, the defenses are going to become more succinct. And you need to have a player that can break down a defense by themselves. And, you know, there's no one in the attack right now that is doing that whenever they get on the ball, right? Yasin Abdu is a phenomenal dribbler, right? Every time she got on the ball, she was making something happen. And I think that's very entertaining, but that's in a winger's capacity, right? There's no, right? Neither of the two strikers, Boychuk or Paquin, dropped deep to create the ball, to receive the ball from the midfield and turn and make something happen. And whenever they did, it did not happen often enough. So that's the only thing I think this team really needs. I think that's the only thing where if they run into a team that can reliably stay organized for 90 minutes, they're going to actually start struggling. and I'm very curious to see what a team like Calgary can do because they're also playing very good soccer.
Yeah, and I do like that. I mean, like you said, they kind of put a target on their back on their own, and not obviously for a good reason, not for a bad reason, because they are playing lights out. They're 3-0, and they really are seem to be. I'm sorry, but they seem to be at another level than the other teams that they're playing. It's not just that they're winning by luck or a lucky bounce. I think they are actually playing really well, a very nice brand of football, and what I really like when I saw Tanya Boychuk playing is kind of like what you said. She kind of creates something out of nothing. She's really all over the field. She's running left and right. She's, give me the ball, I'll figure it out from here. And she's got, what I really like about it is the attitude that she brings on the field. She brings that
Yeah,
attitude of she's a tough player. She's clearly fearless of facing anybody, and that's something that this team needs because she is in that sense
yeah,
a leader for the of the pack where she's like we're coming from minute one. You can kind of see her chuckle. I kind of said, I was like, sometimes, I mean, if she was playing for another team and I kind of saw the things that she was doing, I'd say maybe a little bit dirty, but you know what, she's playing for Roses FC, so we're happy, because makes us win and gets the team a little bit riled up. But absolutely, it has felt like teams have kind of been caught off guard with
yeah.
how creative the attack has been, and how productive it's been. And the crosses have been, excellent. I really like what they're doing with the free kicks and all that. So with the set pieces, I think that they're being very threatening at all of them. Um, I said, Latif Abdul shot a banger of a goal,
That was a great goal.
but that was the second half,
Yeah,
because it was a tale of two halves, in my opinion. Because the first half, I felt like Roses were a little bit caught off guard. They seemed to be a little maybe caught up in the moment because it was the first home game or whatnot, and Ottawa just kind of from the get go were ready to go, and they were high pressing on Roses FC, and Roses and the midfield was very caught on that. They held on to the ball too much, and then Ottawa would just kind of pile on them, and they had a great midfielder, Minali, Ottawa, that
hmm,
also was very, very obviously very experienced and knew how to use her body to kind of take the ball away. So they were threatening with that, but the second half much better and much more creative, like you said, much more dominant, and the goals were very well merited because excellent crosses. But yeah, so did you want to add anything else about the attackers, or we're gonna go ahead and move on to midfielders?
yeah. Emil asked us about our
Yes.
game MVP. Is it Boychuk, Tanya Boychuk, or Latifa Abdul? I'm gonna go off the board here. I'm gonna say Charlotte Bibot.
Oh, okay.
Um, she's so good, man. She
She
is so
is.
good, and I
Sorry.
I have to be honest, I was a little bit underwhelmed in the first two games, but that's also because I didn't get the chance to see her in the flesh. Seeing her play in person, you get an entirely different appreciation for her game. And yes, Latif Abdou had a great goal, was dribbling past anybody. Tanya Boychuk was a pit bull. She got a great goal to close the game out. But Charlotte was it's class. It's just it. When they say form is temporary, class is permanent. She's such a classy player, and it took her maybe 5-10 minutes to kind of get into the game and catch up to the flow of the game. There was some mistakes early on, but the second she locked in, she was unplayable. She was head and shoulders above everybody because this is why even at the age of like 34, she's able to play 90 minutes in such a high tempo team is because she understands the game better than anyone on the field. Right. And she was going shot for shot with Desiree Scott, who also had a phenomenal game. And it was great to see her in the flesh because when she comes for her goodbye tour to Stan Saputo, I'm not going to be in the country, which is unfortunate. So I at least I got to see her yesterday. But Charlotte People was faultless for 80 minutes, and she was the metronome. She was the workhorse. She was everything in that midfield. And I honestly I think that without her, they don't win this game. Without her, They're under a lot more pressure. But at the same time, her and Ali Hess might be the best midfield tandem in the league because together they're so complementary. Ali Hess picks up so much of whatever's left in terms of just the work. She's tall, she's strong, she's it's like watching Patrick Vieira out there, man. She's it's just all legs and she just wins every 50-50. The
Nah,
work
I
rate
compare her
is
to
phenomenal.
Crouch, Tim Crouch, that tall, awkward, lanky player that just seems to find a way to get the ball. But yeah, absolutely great. But no, I will go with Boychuk because I think she is such an engine the whole game,
Mhm.
and with the attitude and yes, she scored a goal, which kind of is always the cherry on top. But just again, the she's nonstop. They can be down 1-0 or they can be two
Yeah,
up 2-1, Elias, and she is nonstop. She is like a Samuel Piet up top, where she's just like bringing the same attitude, bringing that same kind of aggressiveness, if you like,
it's like
and
those
and
2 weeks of Matthias Kokoro before things went bad.
wow, tear. Speaking of Matthias Coco, but a huge shout out to Yannick Girard, who I know is their physical trainer, because that
Yeah.
team is in another level of physical shape,
The,
and
the,
that's
the
very
coordination,
noticeable.
oh my God, for 90 minutes. And again, all 3 games, this is not just against Ottawa. You're 100% right. Against Toronto and against Vancouver, for 90 minutes, they did not stop.
They don't
The
stop.
second your touch is an inch too heavy, there's 3 of them on you.
Yeah,
The second you pass the ball backwards, all of a sudden everyone's moved up 10 feet and they're hunting you down. And the fact that they can maintain this for the 90 minutes, and again, this is another case of it was a very close game. Montreal was the dominant force for the entire game, but it was very close until the 70-minute mark when you could tell legs start to get heavy, and Montreal's just didn't. Right, the
yeah.
Toronto game where they went up 1-0 right away. Toronto fought back and was dominating for the majority of the game, but after 70 minutes, legs got heavy, and Montreal just kind of coasted to the win. Against Vancouver, yeah, they scored 3 goals in the first half, and Vancouver tried to mount the comeback until they just ran out of gas, and then Montreal was just fresh, right? And it happened again yesterday. It was a close game until Montreal just kept going. And this team is relentless, and honestly, until other teams catch up from a physical perspective, you can't play with them for 90 minutes. Just from a physical workload, you cannot keep up. And you add to that the technical quality they bring, that's just gravy at this point because they're
Yeah,
just outworking everybody. They're outworking everybody, and they also have the technique and the quality to hurt you when they do it.
yeah, and that's usually that is such an interesting approach to take, to take in the sense that, um, we're obviously the subs. We've seen that a bunch of times in soccer games where the subs are the ones that are supposed to exploit the tired legs, exploit the
Mhm.
tired players. There's not that with Roses FC. The subs that come in for Roses FC are at the same level as the regular starters that have been playing for 60, 70 minutes. And there were only 2 subs, I believe, yesterday. They didn't even
Yeah,
sub
he
that
only subbed
much.
2 players.
So it's very, very nice to see. And I'll finish with this as part, when we start with the physical, when we're talking about the physical aspect, is everything else around the game becomes so much easier when you are in top shape physically,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Scoring goals, defending, even mistakes that you made, because Roses FC did make mistakes yesterday,
yeah.
but you can hide them so well when you're just physically fit, right?
Mentally, right?
Yeah,
Mentally, you're not like, "I'm so fucking tired." No.
yeah,
You're like, "All right, 20 more minutes? Okay, cool. I can do 50." Like, I don't care,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're so mentally fresh as well that when you're a player and you're exhausted and you see your opponent just do a full sprint and then run back down the pitch and do it again, and you're like, fuck, like, it's mentally taxing as well. Chana with a really interesting comment that disappointed by the players who subbed in. I agree with you. They didn't do a whole lot,
No, they
but at the
didn't.
same time, by the time they both subbed in, the game was fairly well managed, right? Like they were already ahead, right? The second goal was in the 75th minute, I think, and both subs happened with like 10 minutes left. So the game was it was really just, keep the current trajectory of the game going. So again, they didn't do a whole lot. Who were the subs again? I forget who it was. My Avant,
Monyard, yeah,
Mignard, sorry,
Monyard, and
and
Thibault.
Thibault, right? Thibault, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
They didn't play poorly. Um, they just didn't have all that much to do. It was
yeah.
really just
Just finish the job.
keep the
Just seal
level
the game.
exactly. Just
Yeah,
see the game out, right? You're up one
yeah,
goal. You don't want to do anything stupid, and they didn't.
no.
So yeah, I mean, I wasn't blown away by this by either cameo, but they definitely did what was assigned to them. So you know what? I'll take it. This starting 11 is incredibly difficult to break into, and I don't think they're going to change the lineup for next week either because again, if it ain't broke. But yeah, if the subs go in, they do the job. I'm okay with that.
That's it. And I know you touched on when we talked a little bit earlier about with Emil's question about the midfield. Um, I do agree with you. I think they played really well, but again, as I mentioned earlier, it was a tale of two halves because Ottawa did a very good job in the first
Hmm.
half
Hmm.
of completely confusing that midfield and really suffocating them and not and had opportunities because of it because the midfield lost the ball and Ottawa was high pressing and they were they attacked very intensely. Luckily, they did not. They only got that one goal, which I don't want to say is the midfield's fault, but it definitely did shock them. But the second half they figured it out. They started passing a lot quicker. They weren't trying as long passes. They started doing shorter passes and kind of building up, which made it easier for the midfielders too to not have to hold on to the ball so long and didn't allow Ottawa to bully them if you want to pile up on them and get that ball back. So yeah, tail two halves, but yeah, these past three games that midfield has been solid. They've been
Hmm.
a very important part of this team and in continuing the build up. Um, but yeah, let's move on to the defenders, where I really like their game. I like their game. I especially like Jodie Smith's game. I think she
Oh
is
yeah.
a phenomenal player. I do think that the only Ottawa goal was because of her. I think, and again, it's very difficult in the position she was placed, where she had to make a decision quickly, and she
Yeah.
just didn't. Um, but I mean, I think like we were talking about physical shape earlier. I think up to the 90th minute, she was running up and down the field, doing incredible, saves and all that. So, big fan. Also, Whitaker. I thought she's the one that had the cross on the second goal.
Hmm.
Fantastic cross, by the way. What a solid cross, and something we need at CF Montreal. Some crosses here and there, and yeah, she did a Tom Pierce, Elias, of a cross. So, so, so yeah. No, it was. I think the defenders did a great job. I also really like. Um, Capadonna's game. Capadonna's
Hmm.
game as a center back, I think she's also very aggressive, very in your face kind of defender, and you kind of need that because I do feel like the Roses are playing a very high line, and they need that physicality, that run back, and all that. But yeah, I did like the defense's game. Um, what would you think of their game?
Haley Whitaker, man, she's so good. She's so good. She is again. Um, there wasn't a whole lot happening on Ottawa's left wing, which gave her the freedom to get forward. But getting forward, she was exhausting.
Yeah,
She did not stop. And having her and Latifa Abdul on the same side is an insane combination. And they weren't even exploiting that combination that often, or not nearly as often as I thought they should. Um, I think that again comes down to my first point, which is the creative ability to kind of get the ball out wide. Not just in a going forward sense, but when you have possession set up, find those lines to break, get the ball, and then you can have Abdul and Whitaker in a 2-on-1 against the fullback. It's murder every time. Um, the thing about Lias and Capadonna is defensively they're super solid. What I really like, especially when they're building out from the back, is the fact that they're so composed on the ball. A number of times they were pinned in their own defensive third, and they did not stress. They found Karpenko. They found their teammate. They found Bivo Hess who dropped in to help. They even broke lines when they needed to. Building out from the back, and that's the thing, right? This team has and it feels weird saying so many nice things about a soccer team on this podcast without having any drawbacks. But they played out of the back so many times so comfortably that it was genuinely enjoyable to watch. Because again, once they get you on the turn and they get forward, it's very scary. Again, the only thing I have to complain about in terms of the on-field product is the lack of the final creative player. Because a number of times, both Sauvé and Abdou were cutting in from the wing, wide open, begging for the ball. And like I almost saw Latif Abdou lose her shit in the first half. Rightfully so, because 3 times in a row, whether it was Paquin or Bibo or even Boychuk, turned into space, started running at the defense, and Abdou was just all alone, completely alone.
Yeah.
And she was begging for the ball, and she didn't get it. And after the 3rd time, she kind of lost her shit. Rightfully so, because again, if I'm a winger and I'm wide open, give me the fucking ball.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And I think that creative midfielder that can get the ball and then play that decisive final pass is so important. And I'd even trade having 2 strikers for it. But that really is the only thing on my shopping list that I think this team needs to become totally complete. Because again, you gave Jodie Smith her flowers, rightfully so, because again, she wasn't as offensive minded as Haley Whitaker, but she was incredibly solid in shutting down her side. And so again, you don't always necessarily want 2 super offensive minded fullbacks. You need some balance. And she was a great counterbalance to Haley Whitaker in that, again, I think she could have done better on the goal. I think that goal was a breakdown in team defense, that they were kind of caught out against the run of play. But Jodie Smith from her side was really just solid, and that was the first word. If I had to describe her game in a word, it would be solid. So I think this entire back line doesn't change, because right now all 4 of them are just such high level.
Yeah, I mean, I think game by game, this team is starting to become give the fans and give us the ones that cover the
Yeah,
teams a clearer picture of who they are, their identity, who they want to be, and yeah, so it's a very interesting team to see. Honestly, every week they seem to surprise me, and not just their performances, but their the attitude. And Elias, yeah, you mentioned one of the things that Abdul was almost lost her shit. Obviously, I didn't see that on TV, but um, it's one of those things that changed. Like I said, a story of 2 halves, and in the second half, you kind of just saw the ball naturally drifting to her, like pretty much at the locker room. She must have stood up and be like, "Guys, by
give
the
me the fucking
way,
ball.
give me the fucking ball. I'm here." And they did. They gave it
Yeah.
to her, and yeah, the rest, as we saw, was a completely different game. So we'll finish up with the goalie,
Mm.
Karpenko, who I liked her game, but I do want to say that I don't think she was well placed for the first
No,
goal.
she was not.
It was, and I've said this before. I've said this, and I believe it was in the first game where I thought she was kind of a wild cracker, in the sense that she would play very high, very risky, a huge risk taker, and and then sometimes, I mean, if you're winning at the end of the day, Elias, those kind of things get forgotten, which is
Yeah.
great. But let's be real, they're still, to me, that's still like, okay, but what happens when that in that game that's going to lose? Hopefully it never happens and we go undefeated. It'll be great. But but, but if it doesn't, if we do lose a game and it's because of tiny little details like this and the goalkeeping isn't really helping, then it becomes a problem. But for now, obviously, like I said, the rest of the field is kind of covering up that those kind of like high risky things. She plays so high. She plays really high up the line, and again, luckily haven't been caught in that badly, because I think of the fantastic play of the midfield and the defense. But yeah, you just definitely want to see more. Would you think of a Karpenko's game?
Again, I agree with you. I think she was wrong-footed on the goal. That was probably because she was so far out of her net. Um, and it happened. But besides that, I have zero complaints about Anna Karpenko's game. I love it that she's that far out, because it helps them build up from the back so much. They actively look for her. She's great on the ball. She's phenomenal on the ball. She can pick out a pass. She's cool under pressure. She spends more time outside of her own penalty area than she does in it, and I love that. I you know, if this team is going to play all gas, no brakes, high tempo, not necessarily reckless, but definitely kind of throwing caution to the wind at times, you need a goalie that can also do that. That's quick off her line. That's willing to be a little crazy. I think it's excellent. I do think it's a very interesting goalie debate between her and Gabrielle Lambert. I think Lambert played very well against Vancouver. I think that she's a bit more conservative than I mean, it's hard to be like less conservative.
Yeah.
Karpenko. But I think for what this team needs and for what this team wants to do right now, Karpenko is a better fit, even though Lambert may be a safer choice.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what Robert Rotiscu, I think Rotiscu. Sorry if I butchered the name. I'm really sorry, but what decisions are made with how Rosatoyu. There it is. That's it. With how the keepers are utilized. But I love what Anna Karpenko is doing. I think she makes the game more entertaining. I think she fits right in with what the team philosophy is. And yeah, it's fun to watch, man. I'm never gonna complain about a goalie that is a little bit of a wild card. I think all goalies are naturally just wild cards. I think.
Oh, I love a wild card goalie. I love it. I don't want to say that I don't like it, but shit, man. Sometimes like it does get to you. But look, we'll finish up with that. I just have one question though. Okay. CF Montreal hasn't won one game all season.
Oh God, we're back at this.
Roses FC is 3-0 right now.
Yes, they are.
How important is this moment right now for Roses FC to kind of just be like, again, we speak of mental health since the beginning of this podcast, right? How important is it for CF Montreal's mental health, the fans of the CF Montreal, to be like, for Roses FC to be like, hey guys, we're winning. We're playing the best football in Montreal right now. Come see us, because there's actually something super exciting here happening right now. How important is this moment right now for Roses FC to kind of make their presence known in the city? I think
I don't think it should be done from a competitive standpoint, but what they're doing right now is they're providing a fun, family-oriented product with successful winning football. I think you can't go wrong with that. I don't think they're going to win by competing with Montreal, but by providing an alternative. What was competing with CF Montreal, obviously. But I think by providing a fun alternative, the way they're doing it now, what they're going to do instead of competing with Montreal is they're going to solidify the people they already have, right? And once you've got diehard fans are saying, I enjoy going to the games, I enjoy watching this team, I enjoy watching Roses, I'm going no matter what, I'm a season ticket holder, this, that, and the other. Then you start building and bring in more and more fans just by word of mouth, just by, okay, you know what? I haven't been to a Roses game yet, but they've had like 4 or 5 games at home. Seems like fun. I'll go check it out. They go, they have a good time. We've got another one, right? They've got a bunch of season ticket holders. They sold out their first game. This is how you maintain players. Remember last year we were talking about how do you retain all these people that bought season tickets for Messi? It's by giving them a good, fun product on the field. And for better or for worse, CF Montreal didn't really do that as well as they should have. Roses have the opportunity to do that now. They're providing good, fun, entertaining football. They're doing it in a ground that is theirs. They're doing it with a matchday atmosphere that is really good. They're doing everything right. So at this point, it's just keep doing what you're doing, keep reaching out, and keep being a community-first club in the way that not just their actions are, but just the feel of the match day experience. And you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to compete against CF Montreal. CF Montreal has been doing it for
It's
so long,
impossible. It's
so many
impossible.
years.
Don't bother.
I mean, look, Elias, they haven't won a game all year, but that stadium is packed. This packed. So there's Montreal, for better or worse, and even we can talk about the Habs, we can talk about the Alouettes. Montreal fans are hardcore, man. And when I ask that question is more in the sense of like, I think now is the moment for Montreal fans to kind of pick up on that momentum of Roses FC, not just the bandwagoners, but those that are, have always been loyal and have always
Mhm.
been loyal to their local teams. To kind of be like, okay, guys, Canadians just got eliminated. CF Montreal hasn't won a game in the season. Sorry, not the Expos. The Alouettes.
Too soon.
sorry. But so yeah, so it's one of those things that kind of, it's a perfect moment, to continue shining.
Mhm.
And man, it's exciting. It's exciting for the rest
I
of the
agree.
season.
I 100% agree.
So I do want to go ahead and thank our listeners, Elias, because they stuck with us for almost an
Stuck
hour
with
and a
us.
half.
Technical difficulties and all.
That was fun. I was talking to myself for 5 minutes. Super cool.
It was like
Super
8 seconds. Relax.
super fun. I was getting nervous, but hey, thanks
So
for
was
hanging
I.
on, and may the fourth be with y'all. But thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show. As always, the podcast will always be free to listen and watch on all of our platforms. Make sure to check out our Patreon page for exclusive member content and all of our social media platforms for more content. Guys, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on Blue Sky, we're on YouTube. We're putting
We're everywhere.
constant clips. We're doing it all. So make sure to please follow us, subscribe. It definitely helps our reach. And a big shout out to all of you who joined the Patreon this week. Elias, they're joining every week, and we absolutely love it. And thank you again to all of you who tuned in tonight. And see you next week for episode 225 of The Ball is Round.